Hi, so welcome back to Mental Muse 2.0. Okay, so while you're out here, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button because you're going to want to, because this video may be pretty lengthy. And you don't worry, you do not have to watch this. I'm just going to put it on YouTube, but I'm also going to put it on as well my podcast. Even though I've dedicated my podcast to cults and things like that, I want to go ahead and just put this out there because this is going to be an all about me and my life, because I know a lot of people are curious on what do I do in life. I am not a huge content creator, even though I would love to be, and I would love to get my stuff out there. I don't know why, but I guess algorithms just don't like me. I don't know. But anyway, and I'm sorry, I'm not a professional at this. I'm a one-woman show. I do my own editing. I try not to do that much editing because I just want to be raw. I believe videos and when people talk and stuff like that should be raw. I think everything's way too over edited. I think people just kind of want to put a bunch of filters on, change the green screens. They put way too much, a bunch of layers on. Me, I'm just going to sit here with the mic and talk to you guys. So think of me today. It's going to be basically about me and my life and who I am, what I go through, and I'm going to talk about everything from mental illness to physical ailments, as well as motherhood, childhood, things like that. Just a fair warning. So if you're sensitive to some of those natures, you feel free. You do not have to listen. You could just skip this video altogether, and I'll just catch you in the next one. It's all good. So, I won't take it personal. So, while you're here, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and it'd be nice if you shared it, but that's fine if you don't. So, and also if you want to go and check out my other videos, if you want to skip this one, and just go to another video and watch it. So, let's get started. So where to start at is the best place to start. Again, I apologize for my voice, and if you hear any noise in the background, a lot of it is I got a little bit of lo-fi happening. I just picked out some kind of, I guess, on YouTube, lo-fi, whatever. So I don't subscribe to the premium, so there will be commercials. So if you hear a commercial in the background, I'm trying to click the skip button as fast as possible. So I apologize for that. As well as usually, if you notice, if you listen to some of my videos, you may hear a little bit of sounds like rain or water, because sometimes I put that on. Sometimes I love the ambiance of it, and then sometimes it's real. Sometimes it's raining outside and I'm just in there chilling. So so just to put that fair warning, just in case I'm mid-sentence and then you hear somebody else talking, and I'm hoping it's not a political ad, because I had enough of those. So anyway, so fair warning, there's your disclosure about things I may talk about, things that may happen in the background, things and so forth. So I am one of those people that like to do things raw. I don't like to edit. I don't like to do any filters. I don't like to do any of those things. So as you guys know, I do some editing on some of my other past videos and everything, but I've decided when it comes to videos like this, I will not edit anything out of it. It is just me sitting across the table from you guys, having what I would think like a semi-therapy session. So I'm going to talk about myself today. And if you guys want to, you can comment down below. Tell me about yourselves. I'm curious. What kind of demographics are actually watching my videos or listening? I mean, I'm not sure. I'm on my podcast on Podbean. I think it's, I'll put the link down below. I only got one video on there so far. And it was just my Love is One cult video thing. But I may put this on there as well. So if you're on there, I don't know if they call them followers or just downloads or whatever. So if you can go over there and you can do that, that's great too. Also, fair warning, like true Mental Muse fashion, this video will be probably kind of lengthy. I'm going to try to keep it under an hour, but we'll see how it goes. So with that being said, let's get into who am I. So, Who is Mental Muse 2.0? First of all, let's go back. Okay, so we have to go back to 2021. I had, I guess, a suggestion from multiple people, not just on my social media, but also on my at my friends, my family, especially my daughter. It's like, you talk a lot, but you also have a lot of interesting points and so forth. So, yeah, they've been telling me different things about how, because I do talk a lot and everything, that maybe, and I have some good points, and sometimes I have good ideas, and, maybe I need to, get it out there, test the waters, see how it goes. So, but I was nervous about being on camera. I was self-conscious about being on camera because a lot of videos I watch are so polished. They're so, people, especially women of my age, they look perfect. I mean, they got their hair done, they got makeup on, they have, like a whole background setup. I'm thinking, I don't know where to begin. And I came across, I think one person, I apologize, my voice is horrible because I just got through coughing a lot as I was choking on my breakfast, and yeah, so I apologize. So if it sounds really groggy, yeah. So I'm gonna do the best I can. So yeah, my so I came across somebody, I don't know, somebody's video, or it may have been like a reel or a TikTok or something like that, and someone says, and it was somebody I probably don't even follow or nothing, I just came across it. They're like, people on social media it seems like they have it all. It seems like they make so much money that they just do everything perfectly. They look perfect. Like their makeup is flawless. They're out. They're fully dressed for the day. Their hair is done. They have got. They look. The background is great. It looks polished. Everything looks just perfect. And you really don't have to be that way. You don't have to be that way. Y'all remember, I don't know if you're old enough, but if you are, y'all remember the days back a long time ago. I'm talking about back in the 90s when we used to, probably early 90s, give or take, when almost seems like it was affordable to almost every home to have a computer, at least one, and it was a big computer. And I remember we had a Compact. Y'all remember a Compact? And it was Pizzario. That was the model. And I remember it was like this big old monitor. It was heavy. It stayed in basically. Our living room was big enough because we just remodeled our house where we closed in the garage, so we made it part of the living room. So we had a whole our old living room became like a sitting entry area. So that was the only computer in the house. And I remember, so I would be on that thing all the time. I was on AOL, that 1,000 minutes, that new CD that came in. Yes, I was on no credit card required. I signed up for that stuff. But the thing is that they never warned you your 1,000 hours were up. It just immediately, you just kept using it. And then next thing you know, you got the bill in on your phone bill, and your parents would be griping because you used it. It was per minute that you were on AOL. So I remember I was on there, and it was so easy for me to chat to anybody, total strangers. And we in chat rooms and ASL, you know what I mean? It was like, that was the lingo. We came up with the lingo, and there was none of this hashtag, whatever it is. We didn't know what hashtag was. We didn't have to, because we just typed in, BRB, You know, we already knew what that was. You know, we are the ones, our generation were the ones who made up all that stuff. Never mind the generation after us. Okay, don't get me started on what the name of the generations are, because I get them all confused. But anyways, according to the internet, I'm supposed to be a millennial, and I really do not resonate with no millennial. I'm sorry. I was born in the early 80s. I am not a millennial. I am like an older millennial then, you know. So anyways, yeah, so I remember when we got our computer, I was like, yes, you know, I was like, finally I can. And then some of my friends got theirs, and we were like, oh, so what's your you know, your AOL name? And I remember you used that when you get mad at your friends, oh, I blocked you, I removed you, you know what I mean? And it was like, then we would used to put like the little squigglies, or little, you know, the little asterisks, I guess, by our names, and make them look like stylish, like that was our name, our thing. And nowadays people put emojis and stuff, and I think it's crazy. It seems so childish and so innocent, because the internet was innocent. It was innocent. We couldn't do anything. The only thing we ever did in life was go through chat rooms. That was it. We bounced from one chat room to the other. It was either on AOL, and then Yahoo came along, and we're like, oh my god, I have a question. I have an embarrassing question, but I'm gonna put it underneath like anonymous or a different name. And then like next thing you know, Yahoo Messenger, they had their competitive messenger with AOL. And then, you know, and then we had these little small third party companies. I remember I had like, I think it was ICQ. That one was interesting. You didn't have a name, you had numbers. So you were like, it's almost like you were an inmate, like you had numbers. And that was hard, because I could never remember my number. So I'm just like, I think you can search by name too as well. So, you know, you could do it that way. Or by email address or something that's registered underneath that number. And I mean, then we had, I think, and that's when AOL turned into AIM. And then slowly over time, I think a lot of people kind of got off at AOL, and then they started switching out. It was a lot more on Yahoo than it was at AOL. And then we got into the whole, I think I was on like ICQ, and then I was, I'm trying to think, I think there was another one out there. I can't remember, but yeah, so I had all my messengers open. So, I mean, sometimes I had different friends on different ones, you know, and it was like, when I call friends, I mean friends, people, total strangers sometimes. But to me, they weren't strangers. They were friends. They were people that were from all over the world, or they were probably within my own backyard. They could have been 40-year-old men sitting in their basement, you know, talking to me. I thought it was a 15-year-old kid, you know what I mean? And I remember the way we used to send, the only way you could put your picture on the internet, you had to buy a scanner. And it was a separate machine, and it was as big as a printer, and we had to hook that up. I talked to my parents into getting a scanner. I don't know how I talked them into them, because I mean, the only point of getting a scanner is to scan documents. I think I probably used a lie talk about, oh, I need it for school so I can do this web page thing or something. Y'all remember Angel Fire? Yeah, Angel Fire. That was the thing. That was the website. Everyone had an Angel Fire website, because it's free. Things were free on the internet. Y'all remember that? I mean, you didn't have to pay for nothing. Once you got on the internet, once you paid for the internet, you didn't have to pay for anything else. So, not even the music. We didn't pay for music. No, we didn't. We went to Napster. Then we went to LimeWire. Then we went to, we had Winamp, all those things were free, of course you may have occasional, ad or something like that. And if you got on Napster, occasionally you think you're downloading, I don't know, like, let's see, who is it? Let's think of it. I think during that time I was into like alternative music. So let's say Nirvana's newest album or something like that. You think you're downloading, so it's like Teen Spirit. You're thinking, you're downloading that album, and then next thing you know it, oh wait, and then you start playing it when you after you waited like 1,500 hours for it to download because you keep getting kicked off the internet because somebody has to call your parents' house, and then your parents won't talk on the phone forever, and then you're like, get off the phone so I can get back online so I can finish downloading this album. Anyway, so you're downloading it so you can burn it to a CD, which again, you have to buy, you put a blank CD into your CD-ROM, and then you have to download more software, or you, sometimes it was within Napster's thing, and you click on burn CD, and then it, and that took forever and a day. So you would do all this stuff like the night before, or if you need it, you would have to start your stuff downloading one album. You have to start on Monday if you want it by that weekend, because otherwise you're not going to get it in time. It takes 4 or 5 days to get one album. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, I remember those days, and we would sit there and talk to people, anybody and everybody, and then, like I said, when I told my parents getting a scanner, and then you would be able to, if people were like, oh, you have a picture, this is when we started uploading our pictures. So if you're like, no, I don't have a scanner, I don't have one, and you're like, oh, that sucks. So you're like, but you knew you have a scanner. Sometimes you feel like the vibe from somebody. You're like, I'm not giving them my picture. No way. But then they're like, well, I'll send you my picture. You send me yours. And you're like, you have to do it at the same time. And sometimes, and so, and when you send it, you have to send it as a file. You don't send it like, it's just not randomly uploaded. It's sent as a file, which is so crazy, guys. I always thought it was so strange. So, yeah, I ended up doing that, and I ended up going ahead, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to upload my picture, but I'm thinking, I don't have any actual like pictures to upload, because you think about pictures, we didn't have digital, we didn't have like our cell phones, we could just take a quick photo. No, you had to have like a disposable camera, and then try to get the best selfie, because you don't know until after the fact. And if you're lucky enough, until the digital age actually really happened, which was actually your an actual digital camera where you can kind of see you can kind of see what the photo looked like on the camera. You didn't have anything. The closest you can get is a Polaroid. And so I only had I had a bunch of disposable cameras, because I love taking pictures, so I would take pictures, but then I would never have the money, because I would go drop them off at the local Walgreens, and because there was one right down the street from me. There was no CVS's, by the way. It was Eckerd's. So, yeah, and Eckerd's did it, but but Walgreens they were cheaper, plus they were closer, and you can get it. And I remember when they were like, hey, it's 2 days in the wait, or they finally came out with the 1 hour, but you had to pay an extra like $2, and I'm thinking, ugh. So, but it was under $10, for the full roll. But the problem is, you never knew if that roll was going to come out good. And I'm like, there have been times when I'm like, I did like a whole camera of nothing but trying to get the right selfies. I would change, try to put some makeup on. I try to fix my hair, just try to get a selfie, and hope that it turned out right. Hopefully there's something in the background. Hopefully, I'm okay, And I tried to do the best I can. And I would spend, I have 24 photos of just my face. There's been times when some of the picture came out, it was just my forehead, or half an eyeball, or I couldn't line it up right. It was a mess. I was a mess, and that's how I was. And it took so many times and so many tries, and cost so much money just so I can get one dang selfie. So when I finally got the right one, and then I was like, okay, this will be fine. This will work. It'll be all good, So, who am I trying to please, So I'm sending it over to some dude, and who's supposed to be the same age as I am. He sends over one, and then, sent a picture. So finally, the greatest pictures were always if you to play it safe, and you didn't have to worry about your parents finding out what you were doing with all these cameras and disposable cameras and taking photos of yourself. Was that you would just use you do look the best you could for school photos. So you would just take your school photo and then upload that, and then you were good. You had to upload it sometimes you had to upload in Paint, and then who remembers that program, right? you upload Paint, and then you had to like save it, and then sometimes you would hope that it would convert like like you had a file name, and then it had like a dot, and it has like exe or wps or whatever. Well, you had to hope that maybe Paint would save it, and I think it was like a pfp or something like that. Sometimes it wouldn't like convert over to it, so they would come back and say, well, I can't open it. So you would have to like find a way to somehow convert it. Okay, we didn't have Google. We can just like Google and say, hey, how do you convert file? How do you do that, And it was crazy. So we're sitting here and thinking, okay, so I'm going to just try my best to try to convert this file by, I don't know, looking it up and or asking, and you would ask like in program, like not programs, but in like chat rooms and things like that, and how to, convert a file. So, anyways, moving forward. So, I did this, and I finally got the right file, and I sent the same picture to multiple guys, and miraculously though, back then we didn't get the D pics. We really didn't. And it was crazy. We got actual pictures of actual guys' faces, and just they look decent. Or they're just hanging out with their friends. They're like, hey, yeah, I'm the dude on the left, or I'm this person or that person or whatever. And that's how it went. And we trusted that. And all we know is that it could have been some old man who used his grandson's photos and just said, yeah, that's me. You know what I mean? But we didn't care. I mean, even if it was, yeah, it'd be creepy. I'm like, ew, I'm not talking to you. But at the same time, it's like, it wouldn't have mattered because we didn't have plans to meet up with any of these people. But you're like, when they say, yeah, I'm from the same place you're from, and it's like, whoa. And they would know. You were like, oh, cool, like, what school do you go to? And they'll tell you, and you're like, whoa, and or you would, you gave out all this information, and it's amazing. I mean, my kid, who's like going on 18 now, and she's like, how are you still alive? How did you not end up dead? How did you not end up kidnapped or, whatever? I mean, and now she's trying to convince me to write a memoir. And I promised her maybe I'll sit down and start writing one as soon as she goes to college, While she's busy getting her life together, maybe I'll sit down and write one. You never know. But I have so much to say. So I grew up in this era where it was innocent. It was innocent to that point where it was okay to upload your photo, okay to talk to strangers. It was okay. Even our parents were in the room. I mean, they didn't care. It wasn't until my mid-90s where I actually, for my 15th birthday, I remember this. For my 15th birthday, I got a full subscription paid for magazine to 17 magazine. I was like, yes, and I collected every single magazine every month. I had them stacked up on the wall. I never got rid of them. And I mean, I look forward to it, but not just that, but also for the first time my parents actually thought, you know what? I got my own phone line. And this is when things got interesting, because I got my own phone line. I asked my parents, I said, well, can I have my own computer? And then that's when they were like, okay, we can, since you had your own phone line. I ended up getting a computer. The phone company at the time had a thing where you can get, and it was still a compact though, they sold computers, and you just pay $20 a month on your phone bill, and they would go ahead and send you the computer, and you're just paying $20 a month extra on your phone bill, and until the computer is paid for. So you didn't have to worry about going to the store to, buy a computer or nothing like that. And you didn't have to worry about, things like failing on you as far as like going to the stores and they're like, oh no, you don't have enough credit, or hey, you're only 15, you can't get nothing. And I didn't have a job. I didn't have any of that. So I'm like, this is the only way I'm going to be able to get a computer. And my parents were like trying to teach me responsibility, because they were like, we didn't mind paying for your phone bill or like that. And I'm thinking, it's only $20 a month. Why not? But little did they know that I learned my account, like ID number, and I would get in there and I would actually I added, not only I got the computer, but I added a webcam to it. And they were like, what's this webcam thing? And I remember lying to them. And I remember telling them, I said, oh, that was free because we got the computer. There was a promotion. And the webcam it was an extra like $5 a month or something like that for the next year. So I was like, okay. So, and it was a big bulky black thing, and you kind of hook it up with you snap it at the top part of you kind of set it on top of your computer. And because the top of your computer was like, it was thick. So diameter wise, so it could just sit there, and you basically use a plug and play kind of type of thing. And of course you had software. It came on a CD. You would upload the software, everything's good, and you make sure it worked good. And then, but it didn't have a microphone, so you had to buy a separate microphone. So I was like, well, I can afford a microphone on my own, because the mics I guess it was at Best Buy, I think it was the top like store you'd go to, that or Radio Shack, but Radio Shack was kind of So I went to Best Buy because I had more of an option. Plus, they had more choices where it was like the pricing was a little bit more competitive. So I can get a cheaper one or like store brand one or something. And the microphones were not the kind you put on your like headphones with a mic like gamers do nowadays. It was the kind that had it was just literally like a stick in front of you. And you had to plug that in too as well. And then hope for the best that your camera and your mic, everything picks you up on you. So, and then once you got all that set up, then you got to make sure, okay, look at your background. Okay, what's in my background? And you're like making sure, it's not that bad. But then we didn't worry too much about our background. We really didn't. We just worried about, all we cared about was just, are we being heard? Are we being seen? And what's being seen? Did we look good on camera? So, and did we sound okay on camera? So once we got all that good up and going, that's whenever we got into the chat room, and we're like, people started asking people, do you have a camera? Do you have a cam? Do you have webcam? It would be ASL, and then it would be like C or /M, or like, which would be cam or mic, or like things like that. So you would put like your age, your sex, your location, and then you'd put like a yes or no, So you say, yes, I have a camera, but no, I don't have a mic, or yes, I have a mic, but no camera, or something like that. And people would do that. And and then once you find a competitive thing, not a competitor, but a compatible person that, would do it too. So it became more personal. So now enter the stages where you could actually sit there and just talk with that person. And hey, so now fast forwarding a little bit, I'm probably about more like 17-ish, give or take, about my daughter's age. And which just amazes me because my daughter's nothing like how I was when I was 17. So it's crazy, and actually she's a little bit more timid, but she's also a lot more responsible and a lot more like, no, I don't deal with people, but like at the same time she'll deal with people, but on a mature, she's very mature. She's like, she doesn't deal with all them, Snapchat filter stuff or whatever it is. She's not like that. She's like, I don't care about that stuff. I don't want to talk to nobody on the internet. I don't want to deal with that stuff. So yeah, she'd rather talk to people in person, her own age, that she can see face to face. She doesn't want to talk. She doesn't text. She doesn't do any of the other stuff. So, that's just how she is. It's weird. I'm totally opposite. And I was at her age. But then again, I was also innocent. It was the age of the internet. So, fast forwarding though, I think I was like, as I got a little older, in my late teens, that's when I became more of a wild child in a way. I had no agenda in my life. It's like my mental health started declining because I started, for some reason, I got obsessed with the microphone and the camera, and they actually had rooms where they were like, we go to a website, and this wasn't on dark webs or nothing like that. It was just straight up, there was a website, and it was like webcams.com, and it would be like, you just turn on your webcam, and your whole screen on your computer would have like so many webcams, like other people just sitting there. And you have young, old, everything, male, female, whatever. And you would, you can pick, it's like you're looking around and everybody's kind of like staring at each other. Like there's no sound or anything, but you're just kind of looking, and you find somebody and you click on that person's webcam, and you click on it, and it'll ask a thing will pop up, ask a question, and say, hey, do you want to talk to this person, or do you, what would you like to ask, or whatever. And you would put like, yes, I want to speak to you, or a message or whatever, and that person will say, it sends it to that person, or like, hey, so wants to talk to you, and you would say yes or no. Meanwhile, they're looking at your reaction, which is really creepy. And it would say like, cam number 3 wants to talk to you. And looking back, it almost seems almost like a prostitute in a way, but you're not getting paid. It's really strange. But anyway, so I don't know what possessed, someone to come up with this idea, and I don't even know who ran it. I didn't care. I was just like, hey, I'm part of the scene. I'm part of the tech world. I mean, I love that movie Hackers. I love that. I wanted to be the underground, grungy, I can hack into things, and I can, I remember going into Best Buy, there's some of their computers were locked, and I already knew their passwords. I just typed in whatever, and I unlocked the computers, like they were on the floor. And like, I remember associates were like, hey, what the heck? You know what I mean? So I'm thinking, well, why can't it be unlocked? But they didn't want it unlocked because they didn't want people sitting there for hours on day playing a computer solitaire or Minesweeper. Because it wasn't like your computers were connected to the internet. So anyways, I would go into these rooms and I would spend all night. And I wouldn't sleep, but I wasn't tired either, because this was like a whole world of existence for me. And it does sound creepy. Looking back, I'm not a creep. I'm just saying, this is what I did, and this is what introduced me into that world. And I don't know what it was, but it was crazy. It was looking back, it was insane. And people were like, well, where were your parents at this time? I lived in a 2-parent household. But my parents, I don't know. I feel like they probably gave up on me at that point. I was going to do whatever I wanted to do. And I think I wasn't worth the energy, the time for them to spend on me. They just let me whatever. As long as I didn't do anything illegal, I don't think they really cared. And I think eventually over time that did get to me. I think I became manic depressive. I was not, if you don't know what that means, it doesn't mean like the kind that you would be like laying in bed and not doing anything at all. It's the complete opposite. You do too much. You're constantly on the go. You would be doing risky behaviors. I would talk to other guys that would maybe like, maybe 3 to 5 years older than me, even though they should know it was illegal, because I wasn't even of the age yet. And yet I was doing this. I would meet them up with them. I would go hang out with them. And there would be things that sometimes I did things with them and sometimes I didn't. And it wasn't like there was no strings attached. And what did I get out of it? I don't know, a thrill, but it wasn't like, maybe because I was feeling I needed to be loved. I wanted to be wanted. And they wanted me. Even if it was for a short time. Even if it was just a transaction. Even though I didn't get paid. So I wasn't a prostitute or anything like that. But it was such a risky behaviors that I was doing. And I didn't realize at the time that it was a mental condition I was dealing with. And during that time, I was also in and out of best friends with somebody who I truly still miss to this day. And even though I know he's out there, he's doing great things. And if you know me, you probably know of an idea who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to mention his name. But I do miss him a lot. And I've severed we both severed our friendship years down the road. But I mean, our friendship was always rocky, but we still seemed to push it, and we still wanted, because we had so much in common. We always said that we were soulmates, on a not on a lover level, but on a soulmates, on a, like a connection. It was just, we were made from the same star, and or the same cloth. And it was just so strange that, during that time I was dealing with that too, and he ended up getting help for his issues. And I was looking up, online, doing some research. What does this mean? Because he was like, "Hey, are you, you're displaying some of the same behaviors that I did when I got diagnosed." And I'm like, "Oh." So I looked up and I started doing my own research, and I'm like, "Oh, maybe I am," because I do. I ticked all the boxes off, and what I'm talking about is, I found out at that time, I decided I needed to go get help. And so, but I also, not only did, I needed help, but I also needed the confirmation, am I right? So amongst all these mixed, bad behaviors I was doing to myself and to others, and or with others, and yeah, I am putting my life and self into jeopardy. I found out that, I was not sleeping, and I was barely eating, and if I did eat, it was not the greatest of foods. It was like junk, I was living off of just bare minimum. Even though I was still gaining weight because I wasn't sleeping, because cortisol levels would rise, because the blood pressure wasn't rise because, I had perfect blood pressure. But I was gaining weight, and I was not the greatest, you know what I mean? I like wasted my life away. When I got into high school, I was great at singing, and singing was my thing. And I loved music. I was obsessed with music. In fact, in elementary school, I was in love with my music teacher, and who later on I found out that realized that one reason he didn't reciprocate: one, I was 12, two, and he was not, two, it was illegal, even if he could, three, he is gay. So, it's like, yeah, and I didn't know what all that was. I was trying to impress him. I'm like, he's interested in classical music. I am too. And I got involved in that, learning about that. And then it became like, oh, he needed help. Like, I know he'd be up at the school on Saturdays, doing, stuff with the music or whatever it is. I ride my bike up to the school and be like, hey, you need help, I had a crush on my music teacher and / choir director. And I got so obsessive to the point that it was really bad for him. And I felt bad for him. And I apologized to him. Later on in life, I sent him a message. I found him on social media, and I sent him an apology note and let him know, hey, I am so sorry. I put you in weird, awkward positions as a teacher, as an adult, as a male who is not interested in females and anything, everything. Because no one stopped me from doing it, but I except for him, because he called me out and it embarrassed me. And he could have done it a better way, but I probably needed it. And after that, it did stop. But I used to make little mixtapes for him. I'd write him notes and pictures, and I was always readily available. It was really obvious. It was making him feel uncomfortable. It was like, you have to stop. You can't do this. I stop with the love notes, stop with the, the mixtapes and all that stuff. You know what I mean? I do appreciate that you like music. I appreciate, that you like me as your teacher, but that's all I am, is your teacher. You're going to move on in life. And I thought he would be so proud of me that I became somebody, that I continued on with music in middle school. And then when I got into high school, I actually went to performing arts high school where you had to actually audition to get into. And that's when my parents were like, hey, I mainly think my mother did. I think she had this misconception of being that I would be her cash cow in a way. And what I mean by that, meaning that she thought, okay, she's going to be famous someday. She used to boast about how well I'm, how well I sing and how well you know, I perform. And she literally would volunteer me to sing at funerals for her friends or people that she knew. And I had no clue who they were. And it was I don't do funerals. I don't like going to funerals. There's something about them I just don't do. I'll go to cemeteries, but I don't do funerals. I don't like it. I feel uncomfortable. And that's where part of me feels like I think I'm a little clairvoyant a little bit because I could feel the energy. And I don't like it. I don't like it. It's too much. It's too heavy. It feels heavy, and I feel like I can't breathe, and I don't like it. So I feel like she knew this, but she challenged me on this, and she would sign me up to sing like Amazing Grace. I mean, that's a basic song that everyone sings at funerals. So, she signed me up for those things, and I really resented it from her for doing it. Yeah, so, I'll probably make a separate video about my relationship with my mother, because that's a whole nother video, but this one's mainly about me and my life. So, I got into, going to a performing arts school and singing and stuff, but it was so overwhelming. I don't feel like I couldn't connect with the whole, like everybody else, you know what I mean? It was like, I loved it. I love the atmosphere. I love that we got away with, I got away with not having to worry about metal detectors and have to worry about a lot of other things. So I thought it was cool, we had the freedom, because the kids that were there at that school wanted to be there. So we didn't have to worry about fights. We didn't have to worry about people arguing with the teachers or anything like that. If you were late, the teachers trusted you were late for a reason, and it was a legitimate reason because they knew that you wanted to be there. Because if you didn't want to be there, why did you audition? Why did you waste your time? You know what I mean? But also the curriculum was a lot harder. And so on top of the extracurriculars, since we didn't have gym, we didn't have PE, we had clusters, which were, you had the music, you had, theater, you had dance, you had things like that. Those were your clusters. You had art. I mean, those were your clusters. So you would have like 3 or 4 extra classes that were dedicated to your cluster. So that took place of gym and PE. So we didn't have sports or anything like that, but we did have this thing where it's like no pass, no perform. So if you didn't pass your actual academics, you couldn't perform. So you still had to pass your classes. So, and if you didn't perform, you didn't pass your extracurricular, which would have been your performing. So it was a note, you might as well gotten a 0. So you were forced to pass your classes, and it was hard. It was tough. It was rigorous, and I got overwhelmed. And I think that's around the time when also I started getting migraines and stuff really bad, and I just could not handle it. And then eventually, I think my counselor, she gave me some really false information that later I found out was right, was that apparently somehow the whole concept of, I thought, she told me that you had to make an 85 or above in all your classes, otherwise you're basically going to be kicked out of the school, and I didn't know that, and I was like, oh no. Anyways, even if I was sort of passed, I was getting a C's, I couldn't do it. I would stay up all night long. I would stay up at the school till 10 o'clock at night. I'm not just practicing and performing, but also, sitting in the hallways during lunch period. I was not eating lunch. Lunch was a candy bar and a Hawaiian punch. I mean, that was all I had time to eat. Just to get, because I'd spend the rest of the time doing homework or studying or trying. I could not keep up with it. And then I later found out. So later I found out that that information was not true, because I ended up the next following, after a semester of doing all that, I realized I can't keep up with this. I'm just going to go to my regular public school, regular high school, the scary high school that I was trying to avoid all along, and where they have metal detectors, and they have people there that they fight each other if you look at them the wrong way. It was scary. So, but I had no other choice, so I went, sucked it up. So starting that following new year, I didn't even get through I didn't get through freshman year. I ended up going to my public school, and it wasn't as bad as I thought. I found some people I remember back in middle school. They're like, "Hey, I didn't know you go here now," and we hooked up and we started hanging out again. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm normal. I can go to the football games. I can go to, I mean, I could still be in choir. I can still be in doing the musicals, and I can still be in like doing the arts and stuff like that. So, and the classwork was a lot easier. Plus, not only that, they put me in AP classes because the type of rigorous academics I was already in. It kind of kept on the same par, but it wasn't as hard still. So I was in all the, honors classes, but I could still do this stuff. And it came down to it where eventually I found out later on in that summer, I decided to take one or two classes to make, to boost my grade average a little bit, for the next 1 year to, start off better. For sophomore year, I found out I ran into some people I knew from my performing arts school, and because they were taking summer classes too, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing here? And they're like, hey, I have to repeat a class or something. I'm like, I didn't think that was an option. They're like, no, yeah, you can. And I'm like, that's not what the counselor told me. And they're like, no, yeah, you can. And I'm like, so you mean I could have stayed at the school and just gone to summer school and then I've been fine? I didn't have to leave, but I left. So, but it was too late now. So, I mean, schools, I can't go back. I've given up my spot. I mean, it's already done. So that weighed heavy on my brain through most of my high school. And then I think that really started I started going into the hyperdepressive state where I was like, you know what? Screw it. F it. You know what I mean? I decided by the time I got into sophomore year, I started noticing I was kind of disconnecting with a lot of who I thought were my friends, because they started believing other people who didn't like me for some reason. I don't know why, but they started believing lies, rumors, dumb rumors, sharing secrets about other people, and I just couldn't handle it no more. I was like, I wasn't really learning anything in my classes anymore, and I was just like, I started skipping classes just to get away. I wouldn't even show up. And then a lot of times my parents are like, are you going to school or not? They gave up on me. I'm like, no. And they're like, okay, well, if you're not, then, keep the door locked, stay home, And it was just me. So, and so eventually I decided, you know what, screw it. I left school. When I turned 17, I found out in our state it was legal and they couldn't hold it against me, and I didn't need a parent's permission to drop out of school. And I did. And then that summer I ended up getting my GED, and then I thought, you know what, screw it. I'll just go straight into college. I'll just go to the community college down the street, and I'll just be that much ahead compared to everybody else, And then I started working, but then during that time when I was working, and then I ended up, I was taking on too much. I was working, and then I didn't really reconnect with anybody new. I had a whole new set of people that I would talk to online, and I had an internet boyfriend who I did meet up because he lived close by, and he didn't have much of a future for himself either. He was kind of a low B, and so I made dumb decisions, and I ended up to the point where I was not sleeping. I was not eating correctly. I was overwhelmed. I was getting in this delusional state. Like everything was not. I mean, everything started blurring, and a lot of it also stemmed from also my mom was having surgery, and it was. I would see it as more of an elective surgery, but at the time for her, it was not elective. But I don't know. But who later on down the road, I ended up having the same surgery. But yeah, so, but I'll talk about that part of later on. I don't know, in another video, maybe, when I talk about my mom. So, because that's a whole nother video, guys. I know I said I was going to try to keep this video under an hour. It may go over just a little bit over an hour, so bear with me. Yeah. So I ended up, once I became, as I got older, I became so manic depressive to the point that I ended up eventually, I did see the signs where I had psychosis. It was bad. So I ended up going to, I on my own, I sought out a therapist and stuff like that. And I, went to a mental health center and 2 or 3 times, and then finally they sent me to a bunch of 24-hour observations, and I also made bad decisions there too as well. And I hooked up with a guy in a bathroom there. Yeah, dumb me. It's the first time I met this dude. We just exchanged names and found out we were the same age, and he was fine to me, and I guess he thought I was cute, and yeah, we just kind of just slipped off, and who cares? He ended up giving me his number. Somehow he got my number, and then next thing you know it, he called me up, and I remember it was around Thanksgiving, I guess, and called me up, and he was like, hey, do you want to hang out? And I was like, because he was out, I guess, and I was like, I told him I couldn't because I had family over. It's Thanksgiving Day, we can hang out the next day, and he was like, okay, that's cool. We'll just talk to each other then. Well, I called him the next day because I didn't hear from him all morning. So that afternoon I called, and I was like, seeing if he still wanted to hang out, maybe we can catch a dinner or something, or a movie or something. I mean, it's Black Friday, why not? And I found out from his grandmother that he had passed away. He ended up basically ODing. So, yeah, and he left a note about me, and basically, telling me that I have so much more in life than what I've been doing, and I'm better than this, and I need to move forward in life, and I need to do better and be better and get help, and so forth. And so I never knew his last name. I never knew where he lived. I didn't know anything. All I knew was his number and his name. That's all I knew. And I felt like, well, if I would have met with him that day before, would he have done what he did? But I love but I didn't. I chose my family over him. And maybe he felt disowned, felt like he was alone. And I had to let that go. I had to think I did what any rational person would have done. It was Thanksgiving. You spend time with your friends and family, but you don't spend it with somebody you just met and you hooked up with in a mental place, you know what I mean? And you don't even know their last name. You don't do that. I wasn't going to abandon my family, just even though my family kind of sort of abandoned me in a way. So, at least emotionally. So anyways, I moved forward in life, and I think I kind of spiraled down a little bit weeks later, and then back in that same treatment center, and then they ended up sending me to a state hospital, and then that's where I pretty much was ultimately diagnosed with being bipolar. And I was like, okay, so now what do I do? Well, now we got to pitch you stable. You're only going to be here to stabilize on medications. That's a whole other story in itself, I was there for about 3 weeks, which felt like 3 years, but, and I have been a spin-off story from that, which may be another video if you guys are interested in it, my time there. And, I went from there to going off into, I thought I'd get myself together, and, after I got out barely right before Christmas, because I'm a huge Christmas fan, so I was not going to miss Christmas. So, and I was going to spend it locked up pretty much in a mental state hospital. So I was like, no, I'm going to be at home. I don't care. So I ended up going back home. But then right after Christmas, I did end up home at Christmas time. But then right after Christmas, I slowly stopped taking my meds. I found an old friend of mine, who I knew way back when, and he had a place of his own and everything, and he was like, hey, you can come stay with me if you want to. If you want to move out of your parents' house, it's all good. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. You can have the bedroom. I mean, I got a brand new mattress, still has plastic on it. You can have it. I'm cool sleeping on the couch, So I did that, and we went clubbing. First time ever I got introduced to clubbing, and I was like, oh my God. And then I started drinking, and I was having partying, and it was the greatest feeling ever. I didn't do drugs, but I did I did drink a little bit, and I was out at the club. This is the scene. I love the vibe, the energy, the scene, and everything. If you ever read Paris Hilton's book, when she talks about clubbing and stuff, I feel her, and I felt what she felt. When the same thing, you feel like you belonged in those clubs. You feel like you belonged in that scene, whether you were doing the drugs or not. It's just being there. You feel the energy, and so I get it. With some of these musicians and why you're there. But I was there 4 nights a week, and I was not sleeping. I was there from the moment they opened at 7, 8 o'clock. I mean, it could still be daylight. I was there. I was like the first person in the door, and I was like the last person out. I didn't leave until after 4 in the morning, and and a lot of times I drove, so I was driving my friends home, and because they were drunk or whatever it is, and a lot of them lived pretty far from me, and so I didn't get home and crawled into bed until almost 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was in and out of work. I really wasn't really working very much at all. Eventually, to the point I did not have a job anymore, and eventually I ended up getting on to trying to get onto Social Security, and I ended up getting onto that, and it sucked. It sucked so bad. It was like, but it would feel like, well, I'm gonna get free money every month, and still I can go out clubbing and stuff, and I get free money, and I don't have to work. Why not? This is where the system is broken. So I did that, and that's what I did, and I did that for years, and then I eventually, I guess my mom convinced my dad that I was too much of a hassle to stay at home, because, apparently I was putting a cramp in her marriage, and eventually my dad just agreed to pay my rent, pay my utilities, but, I got an apartment, and that was probably one of the worst things they could have done for me, because now I really had more freedom than ever, and no one's going to tell me when and where and what to do, where to go, what to wear, when I can come and go, and sleep in, sleep where, who I can bring home, who, whatever. And that's what I did, and I was just living it up. In between, I thought, well, I was coming in and out of college classes. I thought every semester came up, oh, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to start over. I'm going to start new. I'm going to be a good, great person here. And it didn't last long. It didn't. And I wasn't on my meds. I just stopped taking my meds. I didn't go to therapy. I didn't do any of that stuff. Of course, the system failed me too, because they never checked in on me. They never forced me to do it. And they never really followed up with me on it. And I just didn't do it. Why would I? I was having fun, and I was in my early 20s. The next thing you know it, I turned 23, 24. That's when I met my now husband. After moving another apartments, because my dad was like, we can't afford this apartment anymore. You have to move to a different apartment. It was cheaper because it was all bills paid, but it was close. But it was also in the same neighborhood that where my husband lived in, where he lived with his mother, and and then we met through a mutual friend of ours, and we ended up started talking, and he had a job, and so I was like, hey, you're different than most of the other guys I dated. At least you have a job. And I felt like, well, he's a family man, because that means he ended up he took care of his mom. His mom's a single mother, and he had a grandmother, So I thought he was a family man, and he had a job, and I thought everything was good. I finally found a good one. And so, yeah, we've been married, and then like 4 months, he moved in almost immediately, but it was good. And then like 4 months later, around Thanksgiving, he proposed to me unexpectedly. To the point where like literally it was like 5:30 in the morning, woke me out of my sleep and had a ring and said, "Hey, will you marry me?" That was the proposal I got. Nothing romantic. That's what I got. But that was our vibe. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought he was joking. I thought I really did. But apparently he wasn't joking. And then planned a wedding. And then that next following June, we got married. And on Father's Day. And 2 days after my birthday, we got married. And then I found out I was pregnant. The next following Easter, around that time, I found out I was pregnant with our daughter. And she was born around almost at Christmas time. So, yeah, that same year. And I became a mother. And during that time, we realized we stayed in that same apartment. We moved apartments because we needed the extra room my last trimester of my pregnancy, and during that time, we moved apartments, and we moved back to ironically, the same exact apartment I lived in when I first started talking to him, which is so ironic. But yeah, so that ended up happening, and then next thing you know it, here we are. We ended up, we stayed there 9 months, and then we finally I was like, I want her to have a backyard. I want to get a swing set. I want her to have space. We need, let's start a home, I don't want apartment living. So I want her to have a backyard. I want a front yard. I want to do flowers. I grew up. I was tired. When I met him, I stopped clubbing suddenly. I stopped going out with friends. I stopped everything. My focus was on our marriage, him being a wife and being a mother. And that was it. And I became a recluse. And, of course, and I ended up we finally found a small, kind of, sort of rundown, but not really, old, really dated rent house. The landlord was like, "Hey, just pay your rent the first of the month. As long as you pay your rent, you're good." And that's the kind of landlord he was, aka slumlord. He didn't care, but we just wanted somebody to take a chance on us, so we did, and we did it. And it made me sick every month to go pay rent to him because he wanted me to bring it to his home every month. And when I did, he lived in a mansion. But yet he would fight with me when I told him, "Hey, there's a hole in our bathtub," that we had to go out of our own money in our own pockets, go to Home Depot and buy kits to try to, patch it up so my kid can take a bath. My kid was, almost a year old here, so we can take showers and the water's not going through a rusted hole. We had a little bit of holes in the walls. There was hardly any insulation, so our bills were kind of pricey. And there was cold and hot spots everywhere. The whole house was completely dated. It was falling apart. But it was our home, and we lived there a little over a year. After a year lease, it went month to month, and then we finally decided, well, we just, another 30 days you paid for, so during that 30 days, let's find somewhere else we can live. But we had to find somewhere that was equal to the amount of rent that he charged us. He purposely had the rent that was low because he wasn't going to do anything with the house, but also made it where you were comfortable living that you couldn't find anywhere else and still get the same type of house, same type of square footage, and still pay that same amount of rent. He knew what he was doing. So I was like, and at the time I also wanted to get our kid in daycare because she was a single kid. She needed socialization. I tried meetups with moms I got on Yahoo, with mom meetups, and I talked to people, and some of them, we did meet up with them, and they were like spoiled brats. They didn't know how to share a ball. And then I get into it with some of the other moms, and like they were like stuck up. They were in their own world, and I didn't fit in. We didn't fit in. My kid didn't fit in. So I was like, you know what? So I was my kid's best friend, and she was mine, and we had each other. And then it wasn't until I ended up, I decided, she needs, we all spells, we need to put her in daycare. And I got lucky. Somehow we came across one daycare at a church that was fine. And they were like, yeah, so, she can come here. And we didn't know, though, 6 months into that, she was going to end up being, the daycare was closed. It was closed down. The church decided to move. They were going to shut down the daycare. And so I had to find a new one to start all over in. And I was lucky enough to find, this is around when Facebook just started up. And I came across one of an old school friend that I knew back in elementary school. And I was like, oh my God. And she ran a daycare out of another church that was close by. And I'm like, oh my God, coincidental. This is fate. So I was like, I talked to her for a bit. She goes, yeah. So she met the price with me, and she was fine with it. And she's like, just as long as you pay it. If you're gonna be a little late, just let me know, and we can work with you. But don't make it a habit. But sure. Bring her in, come check it out, see if she likes it. And it was perfect. It was perfect. It was great. And I loved it. And my child loved it. And she came out of her shell. She started meeting friends. She ultimately, it was great. And during that time, I was like, finally, I had time to myself. And that's when I knew that I was like, I'm going to write a book. I wrote a book. During the time when my kid was in daycare, but I also miss the interaction. I miss talking to people. I did meet with some friends here and there for lunches and stuff, but it wasn't the same. I miss the old me. I miss the me talking to people. I miss the everything. But YouTube, I didn't know much about, even though it was probably around. But I didn't watch videos of that stuff. I watched reality television on MTV. I watched Jersey Shore. I went to the gym. I went tanning. I did all that, GTL, I kept the house clean, and my family was my life. And then I got involved in, gaming. And then I was like, oh, in gaming, there was certain, games where I can play where I can actually talk on a microphone and I can talk with people. And that's what was the new AOL for me. It was like I can talk. And then Skyping came around, and then I started, the next thing you know it, I realized I can Skype, which is a video call. And I was like, and I can do this with total strangers and still keep my privacy to myself. I started getting smarter at this point, and my bipolarness was kind of starting to get under control. I don't know what happened, but after I got pregnant with my daughter, I think something chemical in my brain started working itself out, and my focus shifted, and I became less selfish, maybe, I don't know. But then, yeah, so I started doing that. Then I got, my marriage, and I got to rockiness ground, and we and that was a big issue with that. And then which would probably be another side quest video for that. But yeah, I ended up, after all that was said and done, I did finish my book. I sent it out. Later I found out that the publishing company was a scam artist. Basically, I sent them a photo of me. I wanted my photo in my book. I had a dedication page for my daughter. I had a author bio on there, and I didn't give them permission to advertise their publishing in the back of my book. They put an extra page, and they published themselves in like an advertisement in my book. I never gave permission to do that in my book. That I never received royalties on my book, even though, despite them saying that I sold books, I never got royalties. The company has been sued so many times, and to the point that they kept changing their names of the company, and they're probably still out there somewhere. Then when Facebook came around and I switched from MySpace to Facebook, I found groups and who were involved in this, who had dealt with the same thing I dealt with, and I got to the point where I was like, I not only that, I was mad because when I got my book and I looked at it and I read it and I was like, why are there words misspelled in this book? And I went back to my original manifesto. I went back to my original manuscript and I was like, they're not misspelled on here. Why are they misspelled in my book? Because whoever typed it up misspelled it, and it made me mad. And I was like, this is trash. I cannot. I refuse to sell it, so I didn't sell it. And if you look me up, you will find it. It's on Amazon, but it says out of print. It says out of everything, because I finally in 2000 and I think 2-ish, or yeah, so around there, 2001, 2002, I got on Amazon. Somebody was selling my book for $900 something, and I was I fought with Amazon. Amazon wanted me to prove that it was my book, and I'm like, what is there to prove? How am I supposed to prove this? I mean, I had the original, but that's it. That's the only way I can prove it. It has a time stamp maybe on it, but that's it. How do you prove a book is yours? I mean, so I ended up, I think eventually, Amazon decided to just, let it go. And eventually, someone did pay that person, whoever, someone did sell it and did get the $900. I hope they did good with it, because, yeah, or karma's going to come back at them, because that was not right. But anyway, so I never got any royalties for my book, and I still have a copy or two hanging around, because it's something I did. It's proof that I did try to do something in life, and I miss writing. I do, and my hopes for that book was to be on like the Bluebonnet book, for scholastics, for schools, because it was an educational book, but it's a timepiece book, and I really was wanting, that's what I wanted, but ultimately, I never came to, and I didn't know how to do it, and it didn't even end up in a public library, sadly. But I don't know, my daughter was like, now she's like, you know what, you should write again, you should. Well, instead of me writing, though, I ended up eventually, after that, all that said and done, and I thought I got comfortable talking on Skype and stuff, and then I think as my daughter grew up, and I think fast forward to 2020-ish, I was like, you know what, everybody's doing Zoom calls and Zoom this, Zoom that. I just started, homeschooling my child before the pandemic. I ended up, which is kind of funny how that happened, but that's another side quest video. But yeah, I ended up, I ended up deciding, you know what's going to stop me? I mean, let me do a test video. Let me get on here and just start talking. Let me see. But I'm like, I was really intimidated because YouTube videos were polished. They looked so professional. People knew what they were doing. They know technology. They know how to work, all the kinks out. They know how to work, how to edit, how to do all that. I didn't know nothing. I still don't know much. I don't know anything unless I got a how-to. I still have to Google, how do I do this? How do I do that? Unless the software does it for me. I was like, I don't have money to spend on software and all this equipment. What is a ring light? I don't know what a ring light is. I had to learn all that stuff. But I was like, why? I have the time. My kid homeschools. She's kind of independent a little bit. She's doing it on her own. What else am I doing in my life? I'm not doing anything in my life. I don't have a job. I don't have anything. I'm at home all day long. Why not? I had an office, sort of. It was like a room it was pretty much a catch-all room. It had everything from decorations, workout equipment, and our computer system area. So, it was a catch-all room. But so I thought, I'm gonna clean it out, rearrange a little bit, clean it up a little bit. Okay, that's not bad of a background, And I thought I hang up this little corner area where I can just and I had a selfie stick. I thought I could use that on my phone, and I thought, well, I want something more wide shot. How do I do that? I bought a tablet for me, and sadly, this tablet is an off-brand tablet. it didn't do really right as far as recording and so forth. And I didn't know what softwares to buy, and didn't know there's subscription prices and all that stuff. I didn't know anything. So I mean, I did the best I could of what I had to work with. And then that's when I came across that video that said all you need, you can, if you have a smartphone, just turn your camera on, put it on video, and start talking. That's all you need. So that's what I did. And then I finally bought it, and then my computer has a camera. My desktop computer has a camera built into it, but because my height and the computer screen is kind of big, it was the height of the desk and the height of my chair and height of me sitting comfortably. It didn't work very well. So it was like it was hard tilting it and getting and be able to talk. And so it was, yeah. So a lot of my videos were more of just me talking, but a lot of showing of, like, I did like a lot of like back to back like little TikTok videos or things like that. I was really heavy into, and I'm gonna admit it, I drank the Kool-Aid. I did. I drank the whole Kool-Aid. Yeah. And I was into that, where goes one, goes all, or something like that. Anyways, yeah, I was heavy into that. And part of me still kind of believes a little bit of it, but I think I got really overboard with it. I got really heavy into that. And I don't really believe a lot of it anymore. But I'm still, I believe some of it is aspects of it's true, but I don't believe a lot of it. I believe maybe 20% of it is true. The other 80 is just fairy tale, made up, cult, brainwashing style things, or how to take a lot of stuff out of context things. But other parts of it, I do definitely believe is true. But I'm not going to talk about all that. I mean, unless you guys want me to, I could do another video. But I guarantee you, if I put it on YouTube, it's going to be probably taken down. So, I mean, I had to be very cautious on to make my own language up, because otherwise it'll be taken down, because how YouTube is. So, yeah, you can't talk about that stuff, especially hardly anything that was widely talked about back in 2020. So, but so I decided to sit down and thought, it wasn't during 2020 when I decided to do the video thing. I was just more into, I don't believe I did it. I don't think I started it until, it may have been later 2022. I think it was probably starting to begin of fall of 2020, I think it was. And then, so, I mean, I was testing it out, or it was around that time. See, that whole year is a blur, and I know I'm not alone with this. It's a blur. And I'm going to guarantee you that's where I believe that we probably did a parallel shift, because a lot of people are on the same boat as I am when it comes to that. So, moving forward, guys, yeah, so I decided I'm just going to try it out. You're going to like me or you're not going to like me. But I had so much, I talked about so many things. I had 10 different playlists. I had everything from true crime to conspiracy, Hollywood stuff. I mean, celebrity stuff. I mean, it was all over the place. I mean, I talked, and then I had this little segment, what's called, shits and giggles, and I thought it was funny because it would be like a compilation of funny music, not music, but funny, TikToks or reels or videos, shorts, videos that I would make a compilation of and, put it out there. I did it once or twice a week. I'd post that, and then I'd had true crime, and then I'd have one also where it was like a feel good, positive videos, or I would talk about or read an article that was something positive that happened with, give you more little faith in humanity, kind of the stories and that I had come across, and then and I didn't know which way I was going to go. I came up with Mental Muse because I thought it's mental. Everything's in my head of what I want. And Muse is the world. The world is what is my muse. That's what it is. It's my toy box, and I got to figure it all out. And which toy am I gonna take out today? And then I was gonna figure it out in my head, with my imagination, or whatever it is, and put it together and put it out there for you guys. And look what happens, you know. So I ended up. That's what ultimately happened. I ended up doing all that, but then, I found out I kept getting strikes. I still have a warning. And then I noticed I did get a lot of interactions, but then I noticed a lot of my videos started getting taken down from YouTube, or I started getting attacked, and it was, or copyrighted, or it was really discouraging, and so I stopped for a while. And during that time, my family and I moved, and we were going through some hard times and then I ended up also getting C19, and I got sick during that time as well, and it was pretty bad. And between 2021 and 2023, I was debating on whether revamping my YouTube or not, because it's been so long since I put any video out, and I wasn't getting any more subscribers, and I never could get them. I barely reached 200, and I had a goal within 6 months of starting my YouTube channel to get 500, because I thought, surely I'm talking about what everybody else is talking about. Surely I should be able to get it. If other YouTubers can get it, why couldn't I? And I'm still at that point now. So I was like, okay, you know what? Screw this. Now I know a little bit more. Now I got pretty decent software. I'm still a one-woman show. I can do this. So now here I am, trying my best to do this. So fast forwarding, not only do I deal with the whole bipolar thing or whatever it is, but I've also, in 2017, 2018, give or take, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. So I deal with that a lot. I have a lot of vertigo issues, and if you know fibromyalgia, it's everything mental, physical, everything. I deal with that. I take a lot of prescriptions for that, as well as I am dealing with a lot of some reason. I think C19 really did havoc on my brain, because now I'm not the same as I was before. I got sick, and I got sick twice. But yeah, I never got the jab, so it wasn't that, and I still won't. But I ended up getting my whole psychological well-being has changed. I get agoraphobic, I get claustrophobic, I have panic attacks, I have anxiety attacks. I deal with that on a daily basis. I get vertigo so bad, it's so dizziness, like I'm on a ship, or the room spinning. I have reactive hypoglycemia now, but I'm not diabetic. I've gained weight. I've lost a little weight. I've gained weight even more. I tried working out. Then I ended up finding out I have vein issues in my legs, that my feet go numb. I had some surgeries on that. Ablations, basically. That's not too bad. I'm still healing from that. I have dealt with heart palpitations. I deal with headaches. I deal with dizziness. I deal with lightheadedness. I panic. I'm dealing with all that. So, here I am still trying, thinking I'm going to revamp I'm going to revamp my whole, channel. So I decided, you know what? I'll delete everything from my YouTube channel and start over. Not only that, I don't appreciate this, is that on YouTube, when I looked up Mental Muse, I found out somebody else has the name Mental Muse, which is kind of funny, because my channel came before them, and YouTube still allows somebody else to have the same name, which I don't think they should do that, because they could say, well, somebody else has the same name, so you know what I mean? So it doesn't confuse subscribers, because when I tell people, oh, check me out, I'm Mental Muse, look it up, and they're like, well, which one are you? So that's why I try to put my face on there. I mean, I have the purple hair, but I mean, it's a filter, an old a whole Snapchat filter, but I thought I looked good in it, so I'm keeping it. I think that's kind of cool. I use that, or I try to change it to just me smiling, so it's me if you see my face. But if you haven't seen my face, you don't know me, and you don't know, or you don't follow me on any other social media sites, you don't know what I look like, then you're not going to know which Mental Muse it is. So I thought, okay, this time I'm just going to put 2.0. So this time it's a whole revamp. It's Mental Muse 2.0. Maybe there's not another 2.0, hopefully. So I'm hoping, but meanwhile, everything kind of stays the same. So I deleted every video except for my very first one and a few others. I deleted everything. I started doing so much work on a lot of videos. I just totally abandoned it. And I'm sorry if you followed it, but yeah. But then now I'm starting to realize that I'm not saying I'm getting sort of lazy on my YouTube, but I'm getting to the point where now I'm starting to dabble in the whole podcast thing, because I like to talk more than show things. So I thought about, why don't I just put my cult stuff, maybe I could put some of my things like this on my podcast, so people get to know who I am. I will, on some things that I did mention, topics that I did mention in this thing about me, because this video has been long enough, about me, I will probably add to it and maybe I'll make it a separate playlist. And if you follow my podcast on Podbean, which I'll probably put the link down below if I can try. If not, I think you can go to podbean.com, maybe I think it is, and maybe you can search me through that way, and then you can find me there. I try to use the same photo, try to use the same thing, so you'll know it's underneath the same name, except they wouldn't allow me to put the actual period dot, so I put, it's Mental Muse, it's 2 and spelled out the word point and a 0, so that way you'll know what it is, so you'll know. Also, I guess that's pretty much mostly it I want to speak about today. I mean, this is where I am today. I'm trying to get better at my videos. Like I said, a one-woman show. I don't like doing a lot of editing. I really don't, because I think YouTube needs to be raw. It needs to be real. And we have too much filters, too much over editing, too much going on, where then we're so worried about perfectionism. We're worried about are you wearing makeup? What do you look like? What does your hair look like? What does your makeup look like? What, do you look decent? Whatever it is. So we're too much focused on looks and not enough about what is the person talking about? What is the subject about? I'm not saying you can't edit, because there's nothing wrong with that. Like if you accidentally sneezed or cough in mid-recording, you can edit that part out. But I mean, I'm talking about why not keep it real like we used to do back in the day? You took just a simple camera, a camcorder camera, and analog it, basically, and looked and, people around, walking around, talking. What is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. But, I mean, I'm just trying to get it, guys, where nobody is every time I tell you guys, comment down below. Let me know, what do you want? What do you want from me? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to talk about? What am I supposed to do? Because I know the topics you probably want me to talk about are probably topics that I'm going to get strikes off my channel. It's going to make me, so I cannot talk about certain topics, and I can't show certain things. And so I just want to know, what do you guys want? I'm not going to make a fool of myself. I don't want to make you guys, I want to give you guys something that is worthwhile, but also educate you guys as well, and topics that we can talk about, everyday topics. We can talk about what's going on in my life. Do y'all just interested in what's going on? What do you want from me? And that's it. I mainly started this. I thought, well, you know what? I was going to talk about, when I started my YouTube channel, I started out talking about the whole, everything that's going on in the world. But now I want to talk about just what is happening with me. And I'm doing it morely for my mental clarity, my mental health, but also and physical health, and I'll document those. And if you're interested in that, and then I'll continue on. But I mean, otherwise, I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming you like it if no one is saying anything about it. I mean, I don't know. So, yeah, give me pointers. Please share my videos. Maybe that needs to be helped because I share them across my platforms and I can only do so much sharing that, I mean, nobody's watching, or you're not watching past a certain time. So I don't know. Maybe they're too long. I have no idea. Maybe I'm not entertaining enough. I don't know. So anyways, guys, the best you can do for me is subscribe. I'd love to do a live. I want to do lives where I can do, if I ever get, but in order for me to do a live on YouTube, I have to have so many watch hours. I have to have so many subscribers. I have to have all that in place before I can do a live. My goal is, if I do a live, I want to do it where it's, one, I'm interacting with you guys on camera, but two, I would love to do giveaways. I would love to do, give back to you guys for, so for subscribing and watching and sharing, for supporting me and getting me to that point. I want to do more, and I can't show you guys more. I can't do more until I get to that point, because YouTube sucks. I'm sorry. They do. YouTube makes it to the point where it's impossible. And maybe if the only way I can get to that point is if I do have the over filters, edited. If I have to look perfect, I have to be perfect. I have to talk about what they want me to talk about. And to me, that's not freedom of speech. That's not First Amendment. That's not the way YouTube was and what used to be and what should be. And so help me get there. Help me bring it back. Help me bring it back to the way it used to be, where we used to not have to worry about those ideas. We didn't have to worry about having to deal with the perfectionism, and bring back the more of innocence of YouTube. I mean, to me, that's the only way to bring back happiness and help the younger generations who do watch YouTube, help them realize that they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to look good. They don't have to sound good. They don't have to have, all the highest, expensive gear and subscriptions and all this stuff, or whatever it is, and the software, and they don't have to have all that. They can just pick up a camera or use their phone and just talk about whatever's going on with their lives, or talk about, what are they concerned about, and things like that. I mean, or just say, hey, look at this cool flower, or, just something stupid and dumb. But at the same time, hey, it's actually nice to see that every now and then, instead of politics, instead of he said, she said, instead of, oh, let's rat on this one, YouTuber is basically bullying another YouTuber. I mean, instead of having that drama, why don't we just have the normal conversations? Why don't we just have a normal camaraderie here? I would love to sit there and have another YouTuber who is successful to come across my videos and actually say, hey, check her out. I would love to get that, because I need that. I really do. And I'm not saying I want to piggyback off of you guys, but I mean, it'd be great to get that out there. And if you guys can help me, somebody out there who would be welcome my freshness of YouTube, that'd be great. So as we're talking about it, like, comment, share, subscribe, and I guess that's it, guys. And if you're on my podcast, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, and stay tuned with those. I'm still working on another cult video, as well as also working on another video that's not cultish, but it could be And I may put that as well on my podcast as well. Check me out down in the description below. I'll try to put the links. If I can't, check out podbean.com and maybe you can search me on there. It's music. It's Mental Muse 2, the word point, and then 0. So on there, and then on YouTube it is Mental Muse 2 dot or point O. And again, that's it. That's about my life so far. And of course, there's a lot of it I can go deeper into in more details. And I may do it if you guys are interested in it. But the only way I'm going to do that is if you guys give me those thumbs up on this video and let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it here and you will never know. Have a great one. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for listening. Bye.